Okay, so this afternoon we're going to go over blood pressure, and this will include your essay. And once we're done with lecture, don't leave, because we're going to take a vote on what you're going to do as far as exam 3, which day you want to have it, okay? So when we talk about blood pressure, we're talking about the pressure of the blood only in the arteries. So we're going to talk about why we're looking at pressure only in arteries. We do not measure blood pressure in veins. We do not measure blood pressure in capillaries. So let's look for a minute at the differences between an artery, a vein, and capillaries, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what blood pressure is and how it works. So first of all, in arteries, we know that you have an interior layer, what they call a tunica. You have the tunica interna, and then you have the tunica media and the tunica externa. Same thing with veins, not the same thing with capillaries. Capillaries only have one layer. They don't have all three layers like arteries and veins. As a matter of fact, the capillary is just one single cell thick. And the reason for that is because we exchange gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide from the blood to the tissues and back again through the capillaries only. There's no exchange of gases through arteries or veins. Their walls are too thick for this to occur. Also, we exchange nutrients and various different hormones, different chemicals through the walls of the capillaries only. Again, arteries and veins are too thick for these exchanges to occur. Now, if you look at an artery, they are much thicker than a vein, and that's because arteries have a very thick muscular layer. This is smooth muscle in an artery versus this little tiny wimpy smooth muscle in a vein. Now, because arteries are thicker, they have more muscle. The walls of the arteries are much stronger. So for instance, and I'm not telling you to do this, but if you are in a surgical suite and you have a patient who, let's say their abdomen is open during the surgery, if you were to touch an artery, nothing would happen. But if you were to touch a vein, it would collapse. Because the walls of the veins are super thin, they're very weak, and they can't handle even just the lightest touch. Now, you didn't hurt anything because it'll fill back up with blood. It'll kind of blow back up like a balloon. But if you were to touch it again, it would collapse again. That doesn't happen with arteries because the walls are very firm, they're very strong, because they have this thick, smooth muscle layer. Now, the other thing that can happen with arteries is that smooth muscle can contract. And so you get the inside lumen of the artery getting much smaller in diameter when that smooth muscle contracts. And so we say that the artery can vasoconstrict. So only arteries really have the ability to truly vasoconstrict. Veins, they can do it a little tiny bit, but it doesn't really count. They don't really have any ability to truly change the size of their lumen or the diameter of the lumen. Only arteries can really do that. Now, the other thing that's different about arteries and veins is that with arteries, every time you put blood into them, their size doesn't change. But if you were to add blood into a vein, it would just kind of blow up like a water balloon. Veins get stretched. They're super duper stretchy, where the walls of the arteries are stiff and they can't stretch. Now, this is why we measure blood pressure in in arteries only, because the walls do not stretch. pressure is all about the force of the blood. And that blood is pushing on the walls of the artery. And so we have this force pushing against the walls, and that force is what we call blood pressure. Okay, now, what would happen if I had this artery and I add blood to the artery? Now, the walls of the artery don't change at all. They're very stiff. If I add more blood into that artery, will there be more force against the walls? Yeah, absolutely. But what if I could magically, every time I add blood to the artery, make the artery bigger? What would happen to the force pushing against the walls? It wouldn't change, would it? There'd be no change, because if I add more blood and it just blows the artery up, it doesn't change the force against the walls. If I could keep the artery a smaller size, the force would become stronger. So in veins, every time I add blood, they blow up like a balloon. They stretch out. And so there's no more force against the walls. Blood pressure doesn't change in a vein. In an artery, if I add more blood, there's more force against the walls, so blood pressure will go up. If I have less blood, there'll be less force against the walls, and so blood pressure will go down. So we only measure blood pressure in the arteries. We don't have the ability to measure blood pressure in veins because they're constantly stretching every time there's more blood in them. Now, blood is going to come out of the left ventricle of the heart and enter into the aorta. Now, when blood comes out of that left ventricle and goes into the aorta, it's at super high pressure. It's the highest blood pressure in the whole body. But from that aorta, it's going to divide into multiple arteries. And every time you divide into arteries, you have blood flowing in different directions. So what happens to the force of the blood as it goes into these multiple arteries out of the aorta? It goes down. And so you see this blood pressure falling from the aorta into these multiple arteries. Now, you know we go from the arteries and we keep dividing into the arterioles. And so blood pressure is going to go down in the arterioles. And then from the arterioles, we divide into the capillaries. And so blood pressure again goes down. And from the capillaries, you go into the venous system, into the veins, which stretch. And as soon as they stretch, blood pressure plummets. It goes way down. So that by the time the blood comes back to the heart through the superior and inferior vena cava, it's at the lowest pressure in the body. So the further away from the heart you get after the aorta, all the way back to the heart with the superior and inferior vena cava, blood pressure just keeps dropping and dropping and dropping. So that by the time it enters the heart in the right atrium, blood pressure is almost at zero because it just keeps dropping. So it's the lowest in the venous system. Now, by the way, in our capillaries, we have sphincters. These little round things right here are able to, they're little muscles that are able to squeeze down and prevent blood from flowing into your capillaries. As a matter of fact, at any one time, 90% of all of your sphincters are closed down, which means while you're sitting here right now, 90% of your capillaries have no blood flow. Now, the only way for a person to get all of those sphincters open and getting blood to flow into all the So this is what really the benefit of exercise is it relaxes those sphincters and allows blood to flow to all the different areas. By the way, if you don't want a lot of wrinkles, besides staying out of the sun, you need to exercise because our skin gets very little blood flow except during exercise. And the more blood flow, the less wrinkles you get. It's pretty cool. And picking your parents right, because if they don't have wrinkles, you don't get them either. Okay, now, the heart, when it is pumping blood out of the left ventricle through the aorta, it's able to pump that blood. It has enough squeeze, enough strength in contraction to be able to pump that blood through the arteries, through the arterioles, into the capillaries, and then into the veins. But as soon as that blood enters into the veins stretch out and the blood stops flowing. The heart does not have enough strength to pump the blood through the veins and back to our heart. So that the heart literally only pumps blood into the venous system, and then the blood stops flowing. Now obviously we're not dead, so something has to be able to take that blood out of the venous system and return it to the heart. But it is not the heart that does it. So look at these veins in the overhead. You can see you have a vein right here, and on either side of the vein are muscles. Now all of the veins in our body, every single vein, I don't care where it is like a muscle sandwich. There's muscle on each side of the vein with the vein in the middle. It doesn't matter if the veins in your heart, if the veins in your abdominal area, it doesn't matter. Veins are sandwiched in between skeletal muscle, smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, any muscle. There's no vein in our body that isn't sandwiched between muscle. And if you remember, another difference between arteries and veins is that veins have valves. So once the blood gets into the venous system, our muscles are going to contract. And those muscles are going to squeeze on the veins. And what that does is that any blood that's in this vein gets pushed upward. It pops open this valve here, and the blood shoots up. Now when the muscle relaxes, a little bit of the blood comes back down and closes that valve. But what we just did is we pushed blood upward back towards the heart. So that every time you squeeze a muscle, that muscle is actually returning blood through the venous system back to the heart. We call this venous return. So if I want to increase venous return, tell me something to do. Exercise. Exactly. So if I'm moving muscles, I'm able to increase venous return back to my heart. Okay, so then tell me this. How do I get venous return if I'm a quadriplegic? If I'm a quadriplegic, how do I get venous return? I'm quadriplegic. I'm paralyzed in my limbs. How do I get venous return? Quadriplegics don't die immediately. How do they stay alive? How do they get venous return?
How you position
Okay, I could massage them, but I'd have to do that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so it's got to be something else. Do they think about it? That'd be cool, but no. Exactly. Remember I said veins are sandwiched between skeletal, smooth, and cardiac. So our gut is constantly moving. So the smooth muscle is constantly contracting, which not only moves our gut, but it also squeezes on veins. Our heart is constantly beating. So that blood is squeezing on veins and they're breathing, those respiratory muscles also squeeze on veins. Now, is this very good venous return? No. If you can move skeletal muscle, you get great venous return. If you're just moving smooth and cardiac and not so good venous return, which is why with quadriplegics, we do place them certain ways. We do give them massage. We put special socks and like those blow-up balloons on their legs. Anytime you put those balloons on the legs, it's helping to increase venous return when somebody has to be in bed for a long time or in a wheelchair. That helps to increase circulation. So it's the squeezing of any type of muscle on the veins that helps to move the blood back to the heart. So basically we have two pumps. We have the heart muscle that pumps the blood to the veins, and then we have the skeletal smooth cardiac muscle that squeezes on the veins and pumps the blood back to the heart. And we call that again venous return. Any questions so far?
And other people when they lower the stomach to you, so what happens when they take it out?
Okay, so their lower legs are turning blue. That means they're not getting good blood flow to the legs. That's why. So if you don't get enough oxygen, your blood will turn a lighter color, and it has an appearance of being blue underneath the skin. So they're not getting enough oxygen supplied to the leg.
So exercise will be good for that.
Well, it depends on what's wrong with them, but most likely yes. When I whisper, everybody thinks they have to whisper.
What are the two pumps? Heart muscle?
Heart muscle,
and
and
then
then
skeletal.
the other muscle, skeletal, smooth, cardiac, squeezing on veins. Okay? Sorry. Anytime. Yeah. they're going to have a decrease in blood volume. Okay? Now, in this essay, you're going to use the words increase and decrease a lot. So if you want to use arrows up and down, that's fine. Okay? So a decrease in blood volume means that there's not going to be as much blood in the arteries. There's not as much force on the walls. So there's a decrease in blood pressure. And make sure that when you're writing this, you give me the definition for blood pressure. Now, in our body, we have very specialized receptors that are constantly monitoring blood pressure. These receptors are called baroreceptors. So when blood pressure falls, they're going to be stimulated. So the baroreceptors are located in 3 strategic areas in the body. The first ones we have in the carotid arteries, and these are monitoring changes in blood pressure in the head. The next we have baroreceptors in the aortic arch, and they're monitoring changes in blood pressure in the thoracic cage. And then we have them in the kidneys, and so they're monitoring changes in blood pressure in the abdominal pelvic region. Thoracic. When the baroreceptors detect a change in blood pressure, they're going to let the brain know. And in particular, we're going to let the cardiac center in the medulla oblongata know that blood pressure has dropped. Now, the job of the medulla oblongata is to stimulate the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system will secrete epinephrine and norepinephrine. Okay, so this first part that we just went through, this is actually going to start heart rate, peripheral resistance, stroke volume, and blood volume. But it is not going to be the start for blood viscosity. I don't want you to rewrite this 4 separate times. I just want you to write it once at the beginning of your essay. And then you can just tell me that these steps repeat when you start the next section. So if you start out with heart rate, just write this all out. And then when you go to peripheral resistance, just tell me it repeats. Don't do it again. I'm not going to read it a second time. So don't waste your time or your hand, okay? So just tell me steps 1 through 5 or whatever you want to label it as. This repeats again, okay? So the first one we're going to go over is heart rate. Now we just really did this, so I'm not going to go into big detail because you already have it in your notes, okay? so remember, epi and norepi are going to bind to the beta receptors on the potassium funny lead gates, which are on the SA node. Okay, and then what happens? The gates close more often. And what happens? The heart contracts more often, which means you have an increase in heart rate, right? Okay, so I'm not going to write all that down. You already have it in your notes, so you can rewrite that in here, okay? So basically what happens now is we have an increase in heart rate. Now if you have an increase in heart rate, that means more blood is coming out of the heart per minute, right? And if there's more blood coming out of the heart, it's going into the artery. And if there's more blood going into the artery, what's happening to blood pressure? It increases. So as the heart beats faster, there's more blood being ejected from the heart into the arteries per minute. This is cardiac output. The ejection of blood from the heart or from the ventricles per minute, however milliliters of blood this is cardiac output. So cardiac output is going to go up. And anytime cardiac output goes up, that means there's more blood in the arteries, so blood pressure goes up. So these equations show you that cardiac output is going to rise if heart rate rises. And if cardiac output rises, so does blood pressure. Okay, you might want to go to a new page and title it Peripheral Resistance. As we're done with heart rate, we're going to move on to peripheral resistance. So this time, epi and norepi are being released, and they're binding to alpha receptors that are found on the smooth muscles surrounding arteries. Now, let me just go back and tell you one thing. All of these, except number 5 here, blood viscosity. If a person comes into the emergency room and they're bleeding internally, all of these first 4 are all going to be working at the same time. So when heart rate goes up, so will peripheral resistance. And when peripheral resistance goes up, so will rate's going up. This is happening at the same time. Our body's being flooded with epinephrine and norepinephrine. So not only is it binding to the beta receptors on the potassium funny leak gates, but at the same time to the alpha receptors on the smooth muscle around arteries. Okay? Okay, so when epi and norepi bind to these alpha receptors on the smooth muscle, it causes voltage-regulated gates for calcium on the sarcoplasmic reticulum to open. And calcium now is going to diffuse into the smooth muscle and trigger muscle contraction. When this smooth muscle contracts, it causes the artery to vasoconstrict. That means the lumen is going to become half its original diameter. And this causes peripheral resistance to go up 4 times higher. Okay, so now the next thing you need to do is explain what the heck is peripheral resistance. Okay, so it's not good enough to just say it goes up by 4 times. You also have to tell me what it is. Okay. So if I'm looking at an artery and I'm looking at the blood flow in this artery, okay? In a normal, healthy artery, the blood in the middle of this artery moves the fastest. But as you get closer and closer to the wall, or what we would call the periphery of the artery, the blood flow slows down. So that right up against the wall, the blood is flowing the slowest. Now this makes total sense if you think about it like the artery is a big river, and the water flowing down the middle of the river is going the fastest because there's nothing really there to stop it. But if you're standing on the shore of this river, that water is hitting rocks, maybe hitting bushes or trees, and it's kind of sloshing around a little bit. It's still going in a direction, but it's going really, really slow. The same thing is happening inside our arteries. Down the middle, it flows the fastest. But if you think about the artery, okay, as a circle, as a tube, and you've got inside this tube not just water, but you have red blood cells and white blood cells and other chemicals that make it a little bit thicker. All of these start to get pushed up against the walls of the artery. And the more stuff is pushed up against the walls, the more it gets caught along the edges, kind of like that water on the rocks. And it flows much slower. slower flow is what we would call resistance. It doesn't flow real smooth. It doesn't flow flat fast. There's a resistance. Think about it like, okay, in this classroom, if somebody came in and screamed fire, it would be pretty easy to get out of here because there's not a lot of people in here. There's not a lot of obstructions. There's not a lot of resistance. You can get out fast. But now imagine if you're standing over here and there's 1,000 people in this room. You're going to be packed up against the wall. And if somebody comes in and yells fire, good luck to you, because it's going to be hard for you to get out. You know, you might end up like, you know, doing this kind of thing, being pushed up against the wall and trying to get out. There's a resistance that's preventing you easy flow to the door. It's the same kind of concept in our red blood cell. There's so much stuff inside the blood that there's resistance to what's going on. There's things pushing up against the wall and it's sliding. There's actually a friction against the wall and it slows things down. This is what peripheral resistance is. Now, let me give you the definition. So the actual friction of blood flow against the walls of the artery is the peripheral resistance. This type of flow in our arteries where it's fastest in the center and slowest on the edge, this is a type of flow called laminar flow. And this guy along the edge that flows the slowest is the one that's experiencing peripheral resistance. It's on the edge, it's on the periphery. There's more friction because it's scraping against the walls of the artery. Any questions about that? Okay, so now one more thing. Think about this. What would happen if now, with this peripheral resistance, if I constrict down my artery so that the lumen is half its original diameter? What will happen to the peripheral resistance? It'll go up because we're now pushing even harder against the walls. So there's more friction of flow. So peripheral resistance goes up 4 times. Any questions? Initially, and if he keeps bleeding, yes, everything will go down. Because then it'll stop flowing, he dies.
So as peripheral resistance increases, does that mean that it's slower?
Yes. Yeah. Because there's more friction, it slows it down. Yeah.
You said laminar flow was the fastest, but what was the slowest?
No. Laminar flow is the whole thing. Fastest in the middle, slowest on the edge is called laminar flow. The edge itself is the peripheral resistance.
I was like the first doctor. I was just like I was able to pilot and subject about it. And then so after my
I'll take that.
Okay, so we're going to talk about stroke volume now. And stroke volume is the milliliters of blood ejected from the ventricles per beat, whereas cardiac output is the milliliters ejected from the ventricles per minute. Okay, so this is going to be per beat. All right, now stroke volume has two parts to it. The first is what we call end diastolic volume. The second is what we call end systolic volume. Okay, so we need to talk about what is diastole and what is systole. Okay, so you know that blood is entering into the heart through the superior vena cava and through the inferior vena cava. And as soon as this blood enters into the heart, just simply by gravity, the blood is going to go down into the ventricle. Okay? Now, the tricuspid valve, the right atrioventricular valve, is hanging down into this ventricle. So as the blood is filling the ventricle up, it's catching on the cusps of this valve and causing the valve to move upward. Now, right before the valve snaps shut, the atria are going to contract down and put the last little bits of blood into that ventricle, fill it all the way up, and then the valve snaps shut. Now, the same thing at the same rate, at the same time, is happening on the left side. The blood is coming from the lungs through the pulmonary veins, and there's two from each side, two from the right side, two from the left side, and this blood is coming into the left side of the heart and going down into the left ventricle. So both the right and left ventricle are filling up at the same time, same rate, same amount of blood, pushing the valve upward, and the right and left atria contract downward at the same time to fill those ventricles up with all the blood it needs, and then the valves snap shut. Now, these valves are going to be shut for a couple milliseconds, and the ventricles are full of blood. While the valves are shut, the heart is not beating. No blood is flowing. And this period of time is a resting time for the heart. It's a short rest, but it's a resting time for the heart. And that is what diastole is. It's the resting time. The valves are closed. No blood is pulmonary vein, and that is going to the lungs. Right and left. And then coming out of the left side of the heart, you have the aorta. And so when the ventricles contract, they're going to push the blood upward through the pulmonary veins and through the aorta to the lungs, to the body. That squeezing of the ventricles, that contraction of the ventricles is systole. So relaxation of the heart is diastole. Contraction of the ventricles is systole. After the ventricles contract, there's always going to be a little bit of blood left over. They don't contract so well, so perfectly, that every single drop of blood gets pushed out of the heart. There's always a little bit left over. The little bit of blood left over after the ventricles contract, after systole, is end systolic volume. So let's say I have a water balloon. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out 100 milliliters of water. And I'm going to pour 100 milliliters of water into my water balloon. And if we can pretend my water balloon is the ventricle, I just put 100 milliliters of blood in the ventricle, and then I'm going to close it off. That 100 milliliters of blood that I put into the ventricle or into my water balloon, and I close the valve or I close the balloon, that is end diastolic volume. Now, if I squeeze my water balloon and I push a whole bunch of water out, there's always going to be a little bit left over, right? That is end systolic volume. So, what if I put 100 milliliters of blood into my water balloon or my ventricle, and I had 50 milliliters left over? What's my stroke volume?
15.
It's going to be 50. So stroke volume is how much I squeezed out of my ventricle in a beat, or how much I squeezed out of my water balloon. And so I'm going to have 50 milliliters that were ejected from my ventricle. Now, what would I need to do to either end diastolic or end systolic volume if I wanted stroke volume to go up? What if instead of filling up my ventricle with 100 milliliters of blood, I filled it up with 200? Would that make stroke volume go up? Yeah, heck yeah. So if I put into my ventricle 200 milliliters of blood, so I made end diastolic volume go up. And then what if I squeezed the ventricle harder so that I had less left over? So now instead of 50 milliliters left over, now I only have 20 left over. So end systolic volume goes down. Would my stroke volume go up? Oh yeah. So now instead of 50, I'm at 180. So if I want to increase stroke volume, I can either increase end diastolic volume or I can decrease end systolic volume. Of course, I could do both at the same time, and they would cause stroke volume to go up. So we're going to talk about how to increase end diastolic and how to decrease Okay, so we want to increase end diastolic volume. Now, before we do that, let me just ask you again, how did the blood get into the ventricle to begin with? How do we get blood into our ventricle? Exactly, venous return. So we've got to get muscles contracting to get venous return. Now, we want to increase end diastolic volume. So we're going to need to increase venous return. Any suggestions? We could have him exercise. Now, the guy's just been in a car accident and he's bleeding internally. Probably not a good idea for you to get him up and run in the ER, okay? But that could happen, okay? We could get them to exercise. How about if we just, without exercise, get his muscles to start jumping or twitching, contracting on their own, and he doesn't even have to move, okay? Okay, so you have this guy coming into the ER. He's been in an automobile accident and you're not sure if he's bleeding internally. So one of the things that you can do is check his blood pressure. If he is bleeding internally, what change in blood pressure are you going to see? It's going to drop. Now, one of the other things that you're also going to notice is that heart rate is going to be up, right? Okay? And then another thing that you're going to be able to see is you're actually going to be able to physically see muscles twitching. You'll see these spasms of muscles across his body because skeletal muscle as well as cardiac and smooth will twitch, and you can actually visibly see it. Okay, so now the muscles are contracting and they're squeezing on the veins and we're pushing the blood back up to the heart. So we have increased venous return, which means we're going to fill the ventricle with more blood. And another name for that is increasing end diastolic volume. Now make sure that in your essay you explain what end diastolic and end systolic volume are, as well as what stroke volume is. And everywhere I put an equation, so do you. And yeah, you're going to use these equations over and over again in the essay, but that's my evil way of making you remember them. So by increasing stroke volume, we have an increase in cardiac output. When we increase cardiac output, we increase blood pressure. Any questions? It's a good thing I bought this for a party, huh? Okay, so we've gone through end diastolic volume. Now we're going to talk about end systolic volume. So end systolic volume is the amount of blood left over in the ventricle after the ventricle contracted. So can you figure out a way to make end systolic volume go down? Squeeze harder, exactly. If you can make the ventricle contract harder, you'll push more blood out. There won't be as much left over. Okay, so we want the heart muscle to contract harder so that there's less blood left over in the ventricle, which means end systolic volume goes down. So epi and norepi are going to bind to myocardial cells, the muscle cells of the heart. And now we're going to have two different places where calcium voltage regulated gates are going to open: on the cell membrane, the sarcolemma, and on the sarcoplasmic reticulum. So we've got more than the normal amount of calcium diffusing into this cell. The more calcium in the cell, the more actin and myosin bind. The more actin and myosin bind, the greater the force of contraction. The greater the force of contraction, there's going to be less blood left over in the ventricle. So end systolic volume will decrease. Wait, yeah, we haven't gotten there yet.
So we have to do both ways.
stroke volume goes up, cardiac output goes up. When cardiac output goes up, so does blood pressure. Okay, so there's one other part to stroke volume, and this is something that we call the Frank-Starling law. So we're going to go over this law, and then we'll take another break. Okay, so there were two scientists. One was Dr. Frank, the other was Dr. Starling. And they worked together, and they were studying muscle. And they found something really interesting. When actin and myosin bond to each other, they don't bond straight on. They actually bond to each other kind of at an angle. And because they bond at an angle, you can't get as much movement of the actin by the myosin. And if you can't get as much movement, the contraction isn't as strong. So they found that if you just stretch muscle a little bit, that instead of binding at an angle, the actin and myosin bind straight on with each other. And so it's more like a 90-degree than maybe like almost 180-degree angle, just by stretching the muscle a tiny bit. And by doing that, you can move the actin better with the myosin. You can get a greater force of contraction. So if you're playing a sport, if you stretch before you play the sport, your muscles will actually be stronger. And the same thing goes with the heart muscle. If we can stretch that muscle out just a little bit, and the actin and myosin line up better, we can get a greater force of contraction. And the greater force of contraction and systolic volume will go down. Now, how could you imagine stretching ventricular muscle? Say it again. Yeah, put more blood in the ventricle. That'll stretch it out. So if we can get venous return to go up, we can stretch out the ventricle, and it'll squeeze even harder just by stretching it out. Okay, so we're going to increase venous return. This is going to cause the ventricular muscle to stretch because end diastolic volume goes up. When end diastolic volume goes up and the muscle stretches, actin and myosin line up better. The greater alignment of actin and myosin causes the force of contraction to go up. And now end systolic volume goes down. And then when stroke volume goes up. And when stroke volume increases, so does cardiac output. When cardiac output increases, so does blood pressure.
I do it all the time with my mom's
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he was just trying to sick.
He's a comedian, right?
I just thought he'd just go. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk about blood volume now. And we're going to start out with epinephrine and norepinephrine binding to what's called the juxtaglomerular cells in the kidneys. These JG cells secrete a hormone into the bloodstream called renin. Now, already in the bloodstream is a hormone that's been secreted by the liver, and this hormone is called angiotensinogen. Now, one of the things I want to point out to you about angiotensinogen is the OGEN at the end of this hormone. When you see that, what this tells you is that this hormone is inactive, and many hormones that are rolling around in our bloodstream at any one time are inactive, and something has to change their shape and turn them on and activate them. Okay, so this is an inactive hormone. So how we're going to activate this hormone is we're going to bring in renin, and renin and angiotensinogen are going to interact together. So renin is going to help convert angiotensinogen into angiotensin 1, and we have to use Roman numerals for this. Okay? Now, angiotensin 1 is a very weak hormone, can't do a really good job, so we're going to change its shape, and we're going to create angiotensin 2, which is much stronger. In order to convert angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2, we're going to use an enzyme which is called angiotensin converting enzyme, or better known as ACE. So ACE converts angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2, and 2 is a much more powerful hormone. Now, angiotensin 2 does two different jobs. One of its jobs is vasoconstriction. So we've already talked about this. You don't have to repeat it in your essay. We know that anytime vasoconstriction occurs, peripheral resistance goes up. And anytime peripheral resistance goes up, so does blood pressure. So angiotensin II causes vasoconstriction and thereby increases peripheral resistance and blood pressure. Okay, so its second job is it's going to bind to the adrenal cortex. So when angiotensin II binds to the adrenal cortex is going to release a hormone called aldosterone. Now, aldosterone is a hormone that helps to control the levels of the minerals in our body, like sodium and potassium. So aldosterone is going to, in this case, help this person to retain more sodium in their body instead of actually urinating out the sodium, because all day we clear a lot of sodium or filter a lot of sodium out of our blood, and that sodium ends up in the urine. So aldosterone is going to prevent that from occurring. We don't want any sodium in the urine. So aldosterone, officially we say, increases reabsorption of sodium by the kidneys. So we know that the kidneys filter sodium out of our blood and put it into the urine. But sometimes what we need is to take that sodium out of the urine and put it back in the blood. So anytime the kidney filters something out of the blood and then puts it back into the blood, we say it's been reabsorbed. So we're going to take all that sodium that was initially filtered out of the blood, and the kidneys are going to put it back into the blood. So aldosterone increases reabsorption of sodium. Okay, so I ran out of room, so I'm going to just keep doing it over here. Okay, so now we have an increase in sodium concentration in the blood. And because of that, again, we're going to see two different So does blood pressure. I'm going to erase that middle section, so if you want to take pictures, do it now. Any questions so far? Okay, so we're going to talk about the second outcome to an increased level of sodium in the blood. In the hypothalamus, we have specialized neurons that are constantly monitoring osmotic pressure. These are the osmoreceptors. Now, if you remember, osmotic pressure is all about the number of particles in a solution. So the more sodium we have, the higher the osmotic pressure. So sodium levels go up. This changes osmotic pressure. And the osmoreceptors in the hypothalamus are stimulated. And they have two jobs. The first job, stimulate unquenchable thirst. And this means you can give this person something to drink and it doesn't matter, they're still massively thirsty. You remember when we watched the Food Inc. video? And remember the little boy who ate the hamburger that had the E. coli in it? That E. coli is what we would call hemorrhagic E. coli. And what this E. coli does is it releases a toxin that basically punches holes in all of our blood vessels. And now all of his blood vessels are leaking. So basically, he's like our car accident victim. He was bleeding internally. That's why they saw the blood in the feces, okay? So all of these things that we're talking about were happening to this little boy. His blood volume was going down, blood pressure's going down. And remember, the mom said she wouldn't let anybody bring anything to drink into his room because all he could talk about was water. He had that unquenchable thirst. And he was so thirsty, they bring the little sponge that you can suck off of. But he bit the head of the sponge off because he was trying to suck out the water so much. So this is a huge thirst. Now, if your patient can drink, what this is going to do is increase blood volume, okay? And of course, we've already said, whenever you increase blood volume, you increase cardiac output, which then increases blood pressure. Now, that little boy wasn't able to drink because if you remember, his kidneys were failing and he had to be on dialysis. So the second thing we're going to talk about is what happened when his kidneys failed. kidneys to decrease urine production. So we're not going to filter as much water out of the blood. And so we'll just maintain, it doesn't increase, but it maintains blood volume, which then helps us to maintain blood pressure. But now, here's the problem. For that little boy in the movie, he's bleeding internally so bad that he's making a ton of antidiuretic hormone, which eventually, over time, the kidneys will completely stop making urine. There'll be zero urine output, and that is bad. Because of all of our internal organs, the kidneys are the most sensitive, they're the most touchy. And if they stop producing urine altogether, once they shut down, it's nearly impossible to get them to start again. So that little boy was on dialysis because his kidneys had totally failed. If he had have survived, he probably would have needed a kidney transplant. So in the hospitals, you'll watch how much fluids they're getting versus what their urine output is. And you don't want that urine output to drop too low because that tells you the kidneys are going to fail. And that's really, really bad. And that's eventually what killed that little boy, is that his kidneys failed and completely turned off, and they couldn't keep him from building up too many waste products. And remember, the majority, probably 99% of all of our waste products are acidic. So then what happens is his pH drops, and he starts denaturing too many proteins, and you die. Any questions?
Question for this. The second outcome, the stimulator. Those two are the effects or the outcomes as well?
Okay, both of these are the outcome of the osmoreceptors. So the osmoreceptors stimulate unquenchable thirst, and the osmoreceptors stimulate release of ADH. By the way, not part of the essay, just so that you know, sometimes in the hospitals, instead of calling it ADH, they'll call it arginine, vasopressin, or AVP. That's another name, kind of a newer name for ADH. Almost nobody calls it that anymore.
You're usually being told not to by ADH. What is there a way to reverse that using diuretic hormones?
That's a really good question. And in the hospitals, they will try to jumpstart the kidneys, but nearly never do they start again. Once they completely turn off, they're done.
But there are cases in which that happens.
Yes. It's not many. So you just don't want them to ever get to zero urine output. You want to do whatever you can to keep them stimulated. You can even give them medicine that will artificially turn on ADH. It'll turn it off. Okay, so we are done, yay, with blood volume. We only have blood viscosity left. Okay, so we're going to talk about blood viscosity now. So it's going to start differently than the other 4 parameters did. And in this case, you know this person is bleeding internally, so blood volume is decreasing. And of course, whenever we bleed, we lose red blood cells. So this person's number of red blood cells is also on the decline. And red blood cells carry kidneys, we have specialized receptors, special neurons that are constantly monitoring the levels of oxygen in our blood. These specialized receptors are called chemoreceptors. These chemoreceptors will cause the kidneys to release a hormone called erythropoietin. I want to put that in your spelling book. By the way, if you turn them in, they're on my desk. You can get them today. Okay. Excuse me. So erythropoietin is a hormone secreted by the kidneys, and it gets into the bloodstream. And erythropoietin is going to bind to cells in our red bone marrow. So those would be like the sternum, the head of the femur, in the pelvic bone. That's where our red bone marrow is. And when erythropoietin binds to the red bone marrow, it stimulates what we call erythropoiesis. And erythropoiesis is just a fancy word for making red blood cells. So we're going to increase the number of red blood cells. Now when we increase the number of red blood cells, this will make the blood thicker or more viscous. So by increasing the number of red blood cells, blood viscosity increases. Now, if we have more red blood cells, there's more pushing against the walls of the artery. There's more friction. And so when viscosity goes up, so does peripheral resistance. And of course, when peripheral resistance goes up, so does blood pressure. Okay, not part of the essay, but I want to show you one thing. Okay, so look at the overhead here. This is all about viscosity. And with our guy who's bleeding to death, okay, he's losing red blood cells, and that's why he doesn't have as much oxygen. But what if you move to Big Bear? Okay, there's not as much oxygen available, and so you're going to have your red blood cells can carry more oxygen. And so even though in the atmosphere there's not as much oxygen available, now you can actually carry more inside your blood. But your blood has become more viscous. And typically your blood pressure is a little bit higher. Now, what if you live at super high altitude? So maybe you live in the mountains of Colorado and you're at 17,000 feet. Or you live in Nepal by Mount Everest and you live at 20,000 feet. These people have very thick blood. I mean, their blood is so viscous, it's like sludge. And it's hard for the heart to pump this blood. So their hearts get huge. They're very strong and they pump very, very hard. Lots of strength. Now that's good for them when they live up at high altitude. But if they try to come down to, let's say, sea level, maybe they want to visit Loma Linda, which is at sea level, they would die. They cannot ever live at sea level because their heart is so strong that when their blood thins out, the heart would pump so hard it would blow blood vessels like in the brain or in the kidneys, and they would end up dying. So people who are born and raised at these very high altitudes cannot ever live at lower altitude. They have to stay at those higher altitudes.
You're saying they can't even go somewhere?
No.
Visit somewhere?
No. Now they could if it was just for maybe 2 or 3 days. Otherwise, no. They have to stay at high altitude. Usually it's about 15,000 feet and above.
Can they like leave like 14, 13 slower?
No.
There's no acclimation.
No, there's no acclimation. No. Yeah, it's very different. It's very strange. Now, when you guys did your blood lab the other day, did you notice when you did hematocrit? Okay, those little tubes. You did the little tubes, and you got a percentage for your blood. So, what was your percentage? Somewhere in the 40%. Okay. Normal is actually in the 30%. But we live at higher altitude. And so almost always people in this class will be between 40 and 50%, depending on where you live in the high desert. So we